And Chris, you can go right ahead to slide 2. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
As our chair Moses has mentioned, we are not financial advisors. However, we are just providing you some statistics and information on retirement, as well as uh, information that can help in the process of getting prepared for retirement. So, we're going to start with retirement age statistics. And as you can see, the average age of retirement is 64 for men and 62 for women. The expected age of retirement has increased from 63 in 2002 to 66 in 2002. So that's a 3-year jump. And the current US life expectancy is 79 years, up to 16.15% from 68.1 in 1950. This means Americans are living longer and must have more money saved for retirement. And it would pose a question: are you prepared for retirement? Chris, you can go to the next slide. So 40% of older Americans says that they're delaying their retirement due to inflation. Almost half of Americans between the ages of 65 to 75 say they plan to work part-time in retirement. And 1 in 12 Americans believe they'll never retire. So I was looking on the videos of everyone here, and there's a mixed crowd. I'm probably one of the youngers of the people here on the Zoom call. I'm 35, so I have another 35 years to go for myself. Some of you may be in the process of retirement. Some of you may have young adult children who you want to start the process of retirement, right? And some of the best ways to do that is first starting as early as possible, right? You don't want to wait until you're 40 or 50 to begin the process, because now you've shortened the expectancy of how much you can save for the rest of your life after you retire, right? And this allows the power of compound interest to work in your favor, where your savings generate returns, and those returns in turn generate additional returns over time. So the earlier you begin, the more time you invest to have your investments grow, resulting in much larger retirement funds. So for myself, like I mentioned, I'm 35, and I was fortunate enough to have an employer help me understand the purpose in starting a retirement fund at 22 years old, right? And I've been on my job a little over 10 years. This has given me a 40 plus year jump start. So by the time my 35 years to go come, I've been educated and I've been saving in the process, so that when I get to that age, I'm not struggling and scrambling to figure out what am I going to do after I leave my career, right? And everyone's not fortunate to have a hedge fund, and have just, coming from money, right? So a second pivotal point is, in addition to starting early, it helps build good financial habits, because in the back of your mind, you know that there's a goal to save for, right? There's a financial safety net for unforeseen circumstances, helping you retire comfortably without the pressures of playing catch up later on. Early savings maximizes financial stability, flexibility, and peace of mind for the future. And you can go ahead to slide 4, Chris. And so for retirement savings statistics, on average, 25 to 35-year olds should have about $37,000 saved. And I won't go over all the numbers here. We do have the links for these statistics for later views. But by the age of 65 plus, on average, of course, inflation does factor in these numbers, but on average, by 65 plus, the retirement savings statistic should be over $279,000. That's a lot of money, but it's also not a lot of money. So the earlier you start, the better. The average age Americans start saving for retirement is 31. So I was grateful enough to have an 8-year jump start against the average age. And in 2022, Americans reported saving an average of $5,000 for retirement. Now, that didn't give us an age of how old those Americans were, but can you consider having an emergency today that would cost $5,000 and that's all you have saved for retirement, you'd be in some deep trouble if you didn't have anything to fall back on, right? So, if possible, I know many of us have passed the age of 20, but if we're gonna, turnkey some of this information, it's best to try to start your retirement savings in your 20s. It's important to begin saving as soon as possible. And as you move through your 30s, 40s, and beyond, you should aim to save 3 times your annual salary by 40, 6 times by 50, and 8 times by 60. And I am going to pass the torch over to my colleague, Miss Gail T.
Okay, good evening, everyone. And Keisha, thank you so much for sharing that information. And Chris, if you could advance to the next slide, please. Okay, thank you. So Keisha went over a number of saving statistics, and I'm just going to illustrate a few more. Um, the takeaway here is, again, the sooner you can start saving, the better. Some of the concerns that individuals have who are thinking of retirement or looking to plan for retirement, again, unfortunately, they have some concerns. One of the statistics here, 56% of Americans, so over half Americans, say that they're behind on saving for retirement. And that could be for a number of reasons. It could be, again, someone got a very late start. Life events happen along the way, even if someone has been focusing on saving. There could be a catastrophic illness, some type of disaster, a major expense where someone who had retirement dollars or money earmarked for retirement, they had to tap into that, so thereby reducing the amount that they have saved. 58 million or 32% of working age Americans have no retirement savings. So they may be looking to just survive off of Social Security. And for most people, that's just not going to be enough. These are individuals that may be just living paycheck to paycheck, and it's hard to sock away money for retirement. 43% of Americans are worried about outliving their savings and investments. And you may have heard this before, a very valid and serious concern because, again, and Keisha highlighted this, that people are living longer. And in addition to that, things are costing more. So there is this concern that, hey, I may outlive the amount of money that I have saved. One of the statistics is that on average, Americans believe they'll need 1.8 million to retire comfortably. However, only 37% of workers believe they'll be able to achieve this goal. Now, I'm just going to pause on this statistics here, the stat here. And again, everyone is different. This was just one statistic. Some individuals may think, this 1.8 million is way, way more than I might need. Others may think, this doesn't come close to what I think I may need if I'm living into my 90s and I want to do the type of things that I would like to do when I retire, rather that be travel, leave money for grandchildren, have a second home. This number can vary, but the point is here that some believe that, whatever that amount is, I might not be able to achieve that. And again, it depends on someone's individual goals for when they are looking to retire. And Chris, next slide. So here are just some retirement planning statistics. I'm not going to go over all of these. Just a general definition for retirement planning is the process of preparing for your financial future for when you do retire. And again, starting as early as possible and saving as much as possible is key to becoming successful in that retirement planning process. So I'll just point out a couple of the statistics here. The second bullet point, 67% of retirees said they wish they better understood retirement savings when they were working, with 57% saying that they just waited too long to start. So if you can pass along information to others, maybe family member, children, grandchildren, key, start saving as soon as possible and try to tap into resources to become more financially literate and have an understanding of what you may need to focus on retirement. And part of what the goal of this committee is to help individuals just to, again, increase financial literacy and work on planning for retirement. One of the other bullets that I'll just mention on this page is that second one from the bottom, Americans say the top actions that they can take to reduce their retirement, to reduce risks, to their retirement includes the following. Downsize current spending, just trying to spend less. Okay. And just the one above that, the third one from the bottom, 60% of retirees say their former employers did not help them adequately prepare for retirement. In Keisha's situation, she shared with us that there was that conversation. There was someone trying to educate her on some things that she needed to do early on. Okay. And 53% said that their income wasn't high enough to afford retirement. But the earlier you start, the more opportunity for success that one has. Next slide. Chris, please. And these are just a few post-retirement statistics. So some data based on when someone has retired or during their retirement years. 12% currently retired Americans expect to come out of retirement in 2024. That's what was expected. And again, for a number of reasons, one being just inflation, the cost of things have increased. That has kind of whittled away at some of money that was earmarked for retirement. Second bullet, less than 15% of single adults age 75 or older can afford the combined cost of housing and long-term care services. With age, sometimes comes conditions that will require someone to seek assistance in long-term care services, of course, which can be very, very expensive. Okay. And a few bullet points down, 41% of baby boomers, individuals between 60 and 78 years of age or were born between 1946 and 1964, say their Social Security will be their primary source of income and retirement. So obviously best to have something to supplement just the Social Security income. So some of these are a bit alarming statistics, and it makes things a bit more challenging when looking into doing retirement planning. So one recommendation is to seek some assistance, do homework on your own, look at some of the resources that are available to help during this process. And I think I'm going to turn it over to Moses now. Thank you, Chris.
Okay, Chris, may you have the following slide, please? Okay, as you've heard from Keisha and Gail, it is never too early or too late to start saving for retirement. Retirement planning can help ensure that you have the funds to maintain or improve your standard of living in retirement. Set retirement plan. Outline the steps needed to achieve your retirement plan. what do you want your retirement to look like? So after evaluating those points, then you determine where you stand. If you see you basically need more funds, then what do you do next? Let's assume you've been having a retirement account. Your employer provides one, you've been contributing. But after the assessment, you are not in a very good shape based on what you want your retirement to look like. What do? You want to increase your contribution to your employer retirement plan. That way you get full benefit. As you very well know, most employers do match. You put in $200, they add $200. You put in 10, they add $10. Also, you want to cut expenses. You want to take out to entertainment. You want to reduce it. You want to reduce the eating out. Also, you want to not spend things on you don't actually need, wants versus needs. Look for ways to increase your income. You could find a part-time job. Also look at your money, make your money work for you. If you have, let's say, savings, certificate of deposits, or money accounts, how much are you earning? What interest you're getting from those accounts? In case they are not competitive, you could also look elsewhere to find those competitive interest rates. Have emergency funds. That is very, very vital. Let's assume you don't have an emergency funds. Your vehicle breaks down, transmission. You need $2,500, but you don't have it. What do? You run to the bank. The bank gives it to you, but by the time you pay it back, maybe in a year or 2 years, you've spent $3,000. So that's what keeps real life very difficult. But if you had those savings, the vehicle is costing you $2,500 to fix, it would be basically that. But because you borrowed the money, the vehicle is now costing you more than $3,000. So retirement, as you've heard, anytime you can start, it is never late. And the good planning can make things much easier. The next slide, please. So all the points we touched on, these are the resources. I think this will be posted on our website. You can always access it, and you get more information regarding retirement planning. And I think this concludes our presentation for tonight. Thanks so much for attending, and also special thanks to Keisha, Gail, and Chris for running the presentation. Thanks again. So those who have some questions, this will be the time to hear what questions you may have.
Anyone?
May I?
Sure.
First of all, great presentation. Not the first time I'd seen it, but I thought it was really great, really terrific. One of the things I was really thinking about, a lot of those statistics are alarming about people's preparation for retirement. It just sort of makes me think, especially in light of recent events, that it also means we need to do what we can to protect and strengthen Social Security for those people who have no other resource to turn to.
Yeah, that is very true. But again, Social Security is not also much, because if you retire before 62, I think it is around 2,000. If you retire around 67, it's gonna be in the 3,000 and change. If you retire around 70, that's when you're clocking in slightly above $3,000.
Yeah, I think if I remember right, the maximum benefit right now that Social Security will pay anybody is about $45,000 a year. That's per person. So if you and a spouse are both maxing out your Social Security, that's 90,000, which is respectable. 45,000 is well below average national income, which means that those folks are going to be living at a lower level than what the average household is living at when they're working age.